Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton. Now, I'm coming on here. I'm on here alone right now, but in just a moment, we're going to have our co-host, Chris Kirkpatrick, and a good friend of his, and our guest this week, Danni Black. So here they are. They're just joining on the show.
There we go.
Go ahead. We're live now.
We're getting cut off.
So how's it going?
Hey, it's going all right.
Awesome. Yeah, I went ahead and went live just a second before you got on.
Okay.
Played the little theme song there. So this is exciting.
I know.
I just didn't want to forget to hit live because, there's been times in the past where I've missed an entire episode because I didn't hit live or didn't record.
We are not doing that again.
No.
There's the last treasures in the past.
You know what's crazy is I remember that episode the first time we did that, and it was, I kid you not, probably one of the best interviews that we had ever done. And we got to like an hour and a half, and we were like, "Wow, that was a great episode." And then you realized you had not hit play.
And then when we had Marilyn Gigliotti on a few weeks ago, we went 20 minutes in or something like that. Or 10 minutes in or whatever it was. And it was so good at first. And then, boom, nothing. It was all gone.
Was that an exclusive interview then? Or?
I mean, it was good. I mean, it's all kind of a blur now. Because we've had so many in the past month or so. It's like, wow. What is it now? Like 6 or 7?
I think
it's been blowing my mind just seeing the names pop up, and I gotta admit I'm not always paying attention like I should, but I see the names and I'm like, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
And nobody is more surprised than we are. I mean, like I had told you earlier today, I often think about Steven and I a bit like Wayne's World recording in our basement, right?
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, it's 3,000 miles away from each other in the basement, but still, we're just two guys that love talking about pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
And yet, hey, we've had the opportunity to speak with some really cool people. And so, Danni, it's one of the reasons why I'm glad that it's worked out that you've been able to join us, here today.
I'm not quite on the same level, but I do appreciate the invite.
Well, when I was thinking about bringing somebody on, I don't know if I would have initially had considered it, but we had Lee Newton who had come on the show, and Lee Newton is just actively involved in country music, and I think she really just kind of opened our eyes to what interviewing somebody that's involved in music and writing and all that kind of stuff could be. And when I think about people that I know who probably are the biggest hustlers, you just really push to make things happen. I can't think of many people that push as hard as you do.
No, I appreciate it. I hope it means something someday.
Yeah,
so that's all it's about.
Well, it certainly means something to me.
Yeah,
and sometimes we do interviews, and they're with people that we're familiar with as celebrities. It's kind of cool getting a chance to interview a friend.
Yeah, and if I'm too big, then you guys can say you captured me. So
we're happy to ride on your coattails.
Who knows? We'll
and that's kind of how, Chris, how I'm like the co-host, because one day I was just like, hey, do you want to come and talk one day on my podcast? And you're like, yeah, and then you're here still like all these months later. So
right. You just can't figure out how to get rid of me.
And I remember he was on here. He was losing his mind at work, very excited about talking. So it's great to hear that he's been on here so long after that.
Yeah, I mean it's been, gosh, I mean I started it in January of 2020, and then I don't know, what was it, like April or so you came along, and then we've been, come on every week almost. So we skipped a few here and there, but I mean, wow, and we're still talking.
I know. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the amazing things is that considering all the stuff that we've done over the years with talking with our friendship. And here over the year with the podcast is we really have not run out of things to say, which I think is pretty awesome. So
yeah, we really haven't, and we got to thank a lot of people for that. Like mostly, I think Mark Guggenheim, number one, because that guy, let's just throw his Twitter up here. I mean,
Yes.
I followed that today, so thanks for throwing that up
Yes.
earlier. Yeah.
I mean, why not? Let's see here. Here we go. Mark Guggenheim on Twitter.
Oh, follow.
Well, and Mark was the first of our celebrities to come and
Mhm.
join us, and I think it just let us know that we could, reach out and build relationships with people who were, already firmly established in the industry.
Yeah.
So
That's really big.
I mean, and not only that, it's just all the stuff he was involved in. Like after we talked to him, I did a little bit more research, and I'm like, wow, you've got like there were some credits. He did some video game work. I'm like, really?
yeah, and we didn't even get around to that, right?
No, like we just talked about Crisis mostly. He's like, oh, thank you, and you could tell he's like, okay, shut up about Crisis. I've heard enough. But like,
We've already talked about it.
Right. Right. But no,
Oh.
it's just amazing to see how things have gone. And and now we've got Danny. And
Mhm.
our goal here is just to kind of, talk a little bit about you. This is sort of our way to get to know you better. I mean, I know a lot about you already, but Steven doesn't. And a lot of people out there may not know what you're involved in. I do want to just draw attention to one important detail. He is wearing his Miyagi-Do,
I'm representing today
T-shirt.
Miyagi-Do martial arts.
right? And
Awesome.
Steven, you and I, we've talked at length about Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and I just read a new fan theory like yesterday.
What is
As far as
Uh,
with Tori and who her mother is, because it's been a big secret. I've always thought like, oh, they're just not talking about her family. It's not some big hidden secret. They're just not talking about them because not
Right.
everybody's entire family needs to be centered in this show. But there's this fan theory going around that maybe, Hilary Swank's character from the next Karate Kid is her mother.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
And
Yes.
it kind of works if you think about it, because Hilary Swank was the new girl, and then now this girl is the new girl, and it kind of fits that mold of like parallels from the show and the movie. So maybe, who knows?
That'd be great, because that's the one character. If they don't include her, I'm going to be kind of sad if it all ends and she's never.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest. That while I like Hilary Swank as an actress, I don't find that that movie was her best work. In my opinion. However, I know that's controversial, and
Yeah.
and since
Keep going on that.
and since I'm sitting this close to Danny, who is a trained martial artist, I'll try not to. I'll try not to
That's a
take you
strong
off.
word, but
I
thanks,
know.
I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm safe, but I mean,
Quick question while we're talking about sitting close. I know we're live and everything, but am I looking at the bottom window or the center window to figure out where we're sitting here? Because I'm scrunched real close to Chris.
I don't know. I'm looking all over the place
All right.
because I always try to look at my phone screen like I'm looking at you, everyone.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm watching my actual monitor. Like
Yeah.
makes
That's
it look like I'm not paying attention. So it's kind of
The worst would be if I'm like cross-eyed or something at the screen.
yeah.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Or if I'm just sitting here like.
Well, I figured I could ask. I'm all good with personal space. It's
Yes,
all good. So.
absolutely. So, Danny,
Yeah.
who is your favorite in Cobra Kai? Like, who's your favorite character in the show right now?
Okay. I'm gonna have to go with Johnny, and I know a lot of people are big fans of Johnny. I'm not the only one in the world. I relate strongly to Johnny. When I first started martial arts, I was very angry. I was very well motivated to get out there and cause a problem. And then when things didn't work out my way, it kind of faded out, just like it did with Johnny. He still got his skills, but you look at his history, and honestly, he did it for a few years. He was solid. He was the ranking champion. But then after, he got crushed in the tournament by Daniel, that was pretty much it for him.
Mhm.
And he left. And that's kind of how it was with me. I got in. I was angry. I got all my problems out in the ring. And, then life came along, and a few bad choices took me out of really training hard. And then, time went by, and then there came another point in my life where that fire had to be reignited because there was a purpose. And, so I just relate to Johnny in the sense that he's trying to figure things out. I'm in the same boat right now. And I really get where he's coming from.
Yeah, I really felt for Johnny too, because everybody's for years. He's like, he's the villain, he's the bad guy, and Daniel was he was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
The whole entire first part of the season, he's like, oh look, I kicked your ass.
Yeah.
Here's a tree.
Right.
Great job, dude.
I mean, that's worse than a second place trophy, kind of. It's like,
Right. Great. You bought a car and here's a free tree. Is it charity or is he just being, kissing ass? I don't know, but
yeah, and I was kind of pulling for Johnny the whole first season. I was like, come on, man. Like, Daniel kind of deserved to have a dick on his face, I think.
yes, I was laughing so hard. My wife kept getting mad at me because I'm sitting there laughing, and she's like, "That's not appropriate." I'm like, "It is if it's him." So
it's funny, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was good that they kind of swapped places a little bit.
Yeah.
Daniel had always been portrayed as being this goody two shoes who just couldn't do wrong if he tried, and I think that what Cobra Kai did was show us that, okay, maybe Johnny isn't as bad as we had been led to believe, and maybe Daniel isn't as perfect as we had thought he was either.
Right. And I think that's interesting that people, because it seems like most people see him that way, but it's interesting because if you actually look at the first film, none of that is even true. You have Daniel, he's living with his mom, he's in a decent, I mean, it's not nice, but it's a decent apartment. He has a great mentor who's with him, through the 3 original films. He's got love interest in just about every film. He's got something going for him every film. He's got all this support, all this help, and all this love in his life. Meanwhile, Johnny's riding around on a dirt bike for a film in like 10 minutes. Acting like he's all this, but he never has a parental figure, and his only father figure just dumps him there. Until we see Cobra Kai, and then that's years later, and at the same time, he's trying to dump him off too. So it's interesting how they create this imagery in the movie where you're seeing, both characters a certain way, but the reality of the character is very different.
Yeah, that's what I love about that show. I mean, you don't have this black and white, good and bad. It's just a mix of everything. Even Tori, how bad she is. It's like you see that glimpse of her life, and you get why she's the way she is.
Yeah, big time.
Well, it seems like every character in the show really kind of straddles the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen with Kreese, right? That you wanna hate him, right? Because he's a real jerk, and he takes things to extremes, and then we get that flashback to him in Vietnam.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
That he is the product of being a POW, right? And
you see what happens when you take prisoners.
Yeah, I had never really thought about him as a POW and as a military veteran. And while I still think he's a despicable human being, he seems to be a despicable human being for a reason.
Yeah, and I love the fact they go back and show you that, because I think that's hugely important, especially if they end up bringing back in Silver.
Mm-hmm.
And considering it's interesting how the third movie, Silver's this pumped up crazy guy with the ponytail, but you look back at history now, and it's interesting how the roles were kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
I think whenever I watch movies like these, I wonder if it's anything like real life. I mean, when I was a kid, there was the image I had in my head of what studying karate was going to be like. There's the movie, TV karate, and then there is the reality that not every karate instructor or martial artist is going to be like Mr. Miyagi.
Oh yeah.
I guess having you on the podcast, you can kind of let us know what is real and what is not real. If you guys don't know, Danny is not only is Danny trained for many years in what styles?
Primarily Taekwondo and karate. Yeah. And then recently I've decided to do a total switch of gears because that wasn't quite working out for me, and now I'm getting into boxing, so that's fun. Trying to see if I can get in the Rockies world a little bit.
But you've been a sensei. You've got your own dojo.
Yeah, my master died in 2014, and there's an interesting history there. But the bottom line was I couldn't quite let him go, so it was really important for me to be able to pass on the things that he had taught me to other students. So I taught for about 6 years, and now I'm just getting back into getting myself taught and learning a little bit more.
There we go.
There we go.
There we are.
I was tweaking around with the camera angles. I was like, I forgot I could do that.
Right.
Give you some leg room now. So
I know.
Sweating leg.
I know. We're getting a little intimate. I was a little too close here.
Sorry, man.
I know.
I was trying this one, but then that one makes me. We'll go with the.
Look like
we were best buddies over here.
I know. I mean, we're close, but not that close.
Yeah, well, do what you gotta do for the show, man.
Right.
You know,
we're willing.
Show must go on.
We're willing to sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't answer my question though.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
We kind of got distracted
because we are all about business here.
Yes.
On
so the reality of martial arts, from my very limited perspective, it's funny because I've had now 3 different instructors that were full time. My first instructor was my dad. It was 9 years, and he was very much a Miyagi type. You know, he kind of kept quiet about things that didn't need to be said. You know, he taught you how to defend yourself in sometimes harsh, different ways than you would expect. And it was very much, you know, you're using your hands, you're using your feet, you're trying to make sure your enemy is away from you. It's very much similar. You know, he was Taekwondo trained, but he had picked up a little bit of karate over the years. And so we also taught that along with his combat training, which was interesting because we go out to the park and I'd be running around bare feet, scraping up my feet. You know, and he'd be yelling at me, but then in the studio, he'd be like, "All right, you get to hold the bag. You're good." You know, like, you know, it was very different. It was very interesting because he had that love and that passion that Miyagi had for taking care of Daniel. You know, but for me, and then he had a very wide variety of knowledge to share and to adapt to each student. The second instructor I was with was very traditional Taekwondo. You know, it's like first day I went in there, I worked so hard, every part of my body ached for probably about 3 days. It was killer. It was hard. It was the same kind of forms, katas, whatever you want to call them, same kind of strikes, but it was much more rigid. It was much more disciplined. Very, very interesting. I thought it was the hardest thing. Then I found my last instructor, which unfortunately has retired his studio as of a few days ago, and he does Muay Thai, MMA, boxing. And it's interesting because when you're in Taekwondo, you know, it feels a lot like the tournament that they have at the end of the first, second, and third. Well, first and third Karate Kid, you know, they still have that big old fight at the end of the second one. It feels like that when you're doing karate tournaments and Taekwondo tournaments, and it's a little bit rougher. It's not quite the same system today as it was then. But when you do boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, oof, you know, harsh reality check. Because I went in there, you know, knowing Taekwondo, knowing karate, and I almost got myself knocked out like first 2 minutes in the ring. So it's a whole different world. I'm in love with it now, which is why I'm learning about it. But the reality of martial arts, it kind of varies. But if you put yourself into it and you're really learning it, it's hard work, it's discipline, and you're going to get in. That's probably the 3 ways I just summarized it right there.
So as an instructor, do you think you're more Daniel? Do you think you're more Johnny? Do you think you're Kreese?
Oh God!
Who do you think you kind of line with as an instructor?
It depends on who you ask. I had one student that was a real problem, and I was just about borderline Kreese with him. But for the most part, I try really hard to honor my dad's spirit when I'm teaching, and it usually ends up being kind of a Miyagi style thing until I get pissed off, and then I become Johnny. So. You know, what's really important to me is not everybody's in martial arts to compete. You know, that was one of the main stories, one of the main pushes for Daniel in the first and third movie was competition. There was a survival aspect in the second one.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Sorry, phone's ringing. Distract. ADHD. You know, but at the end of the day, not everybody is there to get in the ring, get clobbered, get KO'd, whatever that is that we enjoy, we see on TV, we see in the movies. A lot of people are just there trying to figure out life. You know, and most of the students I worked with were adults. You know, these are people 20, 30 years my superior, and I'm trying to figure out from my very small perspective how to help them unwind problems that they have, try and teach them how to control what seems uncontrollable. And if they're in a violent situation, which a few of them were, how to get yourself out of there without going to jail that night. You know, it was hard work, and it was definitely something where you needed more Miyagi than John Kreese, because if you had John Kreese, I'd be sending people to jail, and they'd be giving me a phone call like, "Why did you do this?" And that happened to one of my former students. He was not in the right mindset to train, and then somebody else trained him, and now he's dealing with the law. So
Mm.
I will say that it seems like one of the bigger themes of Cobra Kai is the responsibility of the instructor,
Mhm.
and to make sure that they're teaching them the right way to behave and to live.
yeah, and I
Right.
think that's something a lot of places miss because they're, and understandably so, they're trying to make that buck, stay in business, and I get that 100%. But sometimes you walk into a studio and you wonder why they're there because their students are not at all focused on the right path. They're just more focused on how can I put my foot to that guy's face, you know. So
So you can't learn and master karate in the span of 2 school weeks.
nope. Mm-mm.
I was gonna try that and then become a champion.
Sorry,
Darn it.
16 years in, and still getting knocked out. So it's not always about sorry.
Probably it's learning about getting hit and getting back up again.
That's it. That's it. On my
Right.
Facebook, I actually have it says "Get hit so you know you can get back up."
Mhm.
That's it. Just
It's awesome.
life, because you're not always going to be able to take on life. You're not going to be able to control everything. But if you get up off the floor after you've been knocked down, still a good day.
Well, I've got to say that I've certainly gotten the getting knocked down part
Mhm.
down. So
Yeah, same.
Oh yeah. I've tried climbing off the floor a few times from a few things. Sometimes you get up pretty quick, and sometimes it takes you a while, but you eventually get there.
Yeah, I've seen that. It was interesting. They had a UFC fight. Guy got knocked down, and his mind sent him back about 3 months. So it happens literally.
Wow.
Sometimes you get hit so hard that you have to reset a few months. So
Whew.
man,
yeah.
I mean, if I could get hit right now and forget the last year, I think that'd be okay with me.
Hey, if you figure out how to do that, just right. Call me, please.
Yeah.
I've heard of moms saying before that if you don't straighten up, I'm gonna smack you into next week.
I say that all the time.
Right?
Yep.
I really do feel like sometimes I would take them up on that offer, right?
Yeah.
So
Seriously.
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we invited you on the podcast was just because of the other cool stuff that you're doing, right? And
Yeah.
we're both writers.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the great things about our friendship has been kind of getting the chance to bounce ideas off each other. You wrote the foreword to my last book.
You wrote the forward to mine. So
right. So
greatest trade of
Awesome.
time
it's a quid pro quo, right?
There you go.
But in a positive way.
Yeah, very much so.
Right. And so it's one of the really neat things that oftentimes you'll send something to me asking for feedback, and I'll send something to you asking for your opinion. And it's been fun just getting a chance to collaborate. For me, though, I write exclusively poetry. That's all that I do. And I look at Danny, and you write musicals, you write song lyrics, you write short stories, you write plays.
Just a little bit of everything. I get
a little
bored
bit of
easily,
everything.
so I just kind of have to spread, or I lose my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know right now, currently, you're working on an album.
Yeah. So I published my last book. Gosh, that was a year ago already.
Mhm.
Published my last book about a year ago, and I was sitting there thinking, I could write another book, but I'm kind of bored. I need to do something different. I need to do something to get my creative juices flowing, because this is becoming repetitive. It's kind of how it felt, because I've been doing that since, gosh, it's probably been about 10 years just writing poetry, almost exclusively. I wrote some short stories last year, and that kind of got me going. But I got back into that mindset of what's next, instead of just sitting here doing the same thing. I'm not saying poetry can't go on for years and years and be original and be awesome and inspiring, but it came to a point where I felt like, let's switch gears for a second, and I started working on this album that I'm working on now, which is called Black Clouds.
Okay.
Write lyrics, and it's been a trip because the first song I wrote out of hate. I was really mad, so I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to write an album, this is a perfect place to start. Oops.
Oh yeah.
The first song I sat down, I wrote, and it isn't my best work, I'll say, but I sent it over to an artist on Fiverr. This isn't sponsored; it's just Fiverr. Go check out Fiverr. Anyway, I went on Fiverr. You can find all kinds of artists there, and I found this woman with just the most amazing voice, and I had her perform that with her bandmates, and I came back, and it was hysterical. And it's called Dirty Cowboy. Selfless promotion. Go check out Dirty Cowboy on all platforms.
Mm-hmm. Check it out right now. No, not right now. Wait till this is over, and then
stay with us, guys. Stay with us. I know. And that was really cool because hearing your words come out of someone else's mouth and performed and complete, like that was really cool. And it kind of told me, I'm on the right path. And so I decided, okay, we're gonna do a demo album. So I sat down, I wrote. At this point, it's been 9-10 songs with different ideas of how it should sound, different stories, different meanings. And now it's down to 7. I got 7 tracks that are coming. And I just sent those out to different people I heard on Fiverr. Some of them had these spectacular voices. Some of them were more broken down. Acoustic went really well with them. And I just started playing with it. And I'm only about a song and a half away from being done. So it's like, whoa.
Nice.
Started in October, and I'm hoping if everything goes well to have it out by April. And it's just like, wow, how'd that happen?
So what I will say, one of the really interesting things about the album, and I've had a chance to listen to a number of the songs that are on it.
He tells me if they suck or not.
It's terrible.
I feel like sometimes I'm not the right person to ask because I'm too honest sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I give a criticism, I try to make sure that it's constructive. But if you're asking me to massage your ego about something, you probably need to ask somebody else.
Not him. Don't ask him.
How often,
yeah.
You know what I mean? How often have I told you exactly what I'm thinking? Right?
Yeah.
And then I write it and I go, "Ooh, that might have come across a little bit too harsh."
I love it though, because there's not people like him these days. Everybody wants to be nice, and it's like he gives you the right thing. What you need to do is listen to him, get a few other people like him, and you're set. That's all you need.
It's hard to turn the English teacher part of my brain off sometimes.
Best thing about it.
I will say that. But
yeah,
I'm not here to bash. I'm not here to bash. Right. What I thought was really cool about the songs was I was expecting all of them to essentially be in the same style.
Yeah.
Right. The very first song that Danny did, Dirty Cowboy, is a country song.
And blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Country song with sort of a blues style to it. It fits very cleanly into that genre.
Yeah.
But as I'm listening to all the other songs, there was one song that came out about your parents.
Yeah, so my parents, they were kind of a staple of what love's supposed to look like. And of course, I love my wife. So between looking at them and looking at my wife and our relationship, I mashed a song together, found a guy who could do it like Frankie Valli, and boom, song. So
it was very 80s. It was like a 70s doo-wop kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was very.
I love that song.
But it had a great groove to it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was. I'm an eclectic musically, and I had never really seen an album that took a lot of risks and wasn't afraid to do multiple things at once.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that makes it, I think, again, as unique as you are. Right. I think that
you can say unique. I would say crazy, but yeah,
crazy, unique. Whatever brand you want to put on it. I think that sometimes we're so worried about pleasing other people that we erase ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you have done a great job of keeping it genuine to you and your story.
I appreciate
that. And that is something that I think it's really neat. And so when Black Clouds comes out, you guys should go check it out.
Yeah, and
it really
pieces are up. If you look at Danny Black on iTunes, Twitter, you can even find it on Facebook if you go in the music section. There's little bits and pieces you can hear now. But when Black Clouds comes out, I'm really hoping it'll be good and versatile, and it'll be able to touch a little bit of everybody's heart in a good way.
Yeah.
So
I will say the opposite of what Danny's doing with Black Clouds. You wrote your autobiography.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
I will say I gave Danny a little bit of grief about it because you're 25.
Yeah.
Who writes their autobiography when they're 25?
Me.
I mean, I know, and I've read it multiple times.
Oh, whew,
I know. I was
dang.
you kind of made fun of me for as your editor.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Comic King.
Yeah. Don't ask me to correct your grammar.
I'm very bad editorially, and he's very good editorially. So we're sitting there on the chapter for 2 days, and he's killing it, and it's in the best way, of course. But it's like, oh my gosh, I got so much to work on here because I have to sit down now and I have to edit all this and figure out okay. And I'm just like, man, I need to go back to school.
Right. I'm the same way. I'll see something I've done. I'm like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Or like,
yeah. It turned out good though, and that was thanks to people. You on there, people like Chris here really helped it come through, and it had a definite purpose, and that was what was important for it. So.
I do feel like when we go through, when I read your poetry, when I read your stories, when I read your autobiography, and even the lyrics to your music, there do seem to be certain themes, right? That you consistently go back to.
Yeah.
Right? What are some of those themes that you normally talk about a lot?
Number one is how to get through heartbreak. That's the number one thing that I know, so I write from there. I've had relationships lately that I've lost because of a lifestyle that I choose to live. I've lost a few people this last year, celebrities and family alike. We've gone through COVID, where everything seems like it's shutting down to, the spirit at some points. It's like, how do I keep pushing through this? How do I keep existing when there's so much telling us that, guess what?
Yeah.
You're home, you're stuck, you can't do anything. That's it. That would definitely be my number one theme. And then there's a mixture of love mixed in there too, because the only thing that has gotten me through those things is the people that inspire me, the people that I love, and the people that I want to be closer to. Like the next song that's coming out of my album, I have a dear friend of mine doing, and that one's for my dad, who I lost in 2014. He was also my instructor. And that one's about the reaction of hearing that he was terminal. So, how do you get through that? That's what it's all about. Survive this situation. And the answer to that was, you know what? I got to create my own story. I can still love him, but I got to, push through on my own now, that kind of thing. So,
and that's really why this podcast exists, because I lost my dad in 2019, and like in January 2020, I'm just like, what do I do? I'm just like, let me talk. So I'm sad right now. And then it just developed into what it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's, kind of the same thing I'm doing with writing. Especially on that song, there's a line in that song that I like. It's been rewritten a few times, but it asks the listener, what do you do when Superman's hung up his cape, right? Your dad's your protector. Right. What do you do, right, when that person's not available? That's kind of the stuff that's behind the album is like, there's love, there's loss, there's all these things. At the end of the day, you just got to power through, and you got to find that one little light in the sky, that one star to wish on almost, and just aim for it, go. That's kind of probably the two driving factors, I would say, for my music and for my stories and everything else. So. That's
awesome, yeah. I get my dad's voice in my head all the time. He used to always tell me not to let little things bother me. I'm like, oh, that's so easier said than done. And then now it's like, it's so easy to hear that and just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just brush it off. I mean, I might like whine for a couple of days, but I'm like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah, my dad always used to ask me, is this worth whining about?
Yeah.
Because I used to be whiner in the universe. He's like, just shut up, dude. Like, what are you doing, So.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really at the end of it, it's like it's not really that big a deal. Some of the stuff that you kind of worry about. I'm kind of glad where we've gotten with this thing, though. Honestly, it's completely different than what it was, but it's good.
I've been really surprised just popping in through the timeline of things, just seeing how you guys are just blowing this thing up.
Oh gosh, like Lee Newton really surprised me because I'm like, here's this girl that's like, not to say that she's unknown, because she's got a pretty big fan base of her own, but she's kind of local to here in North Carolina. And so it's like, okay, how much, like, it's not like she's on, the radio every day or anything like that, but she surprised me like so much. We got close to like 500 something views off that one show, which is like more than like the last 4 or 5 combined. I mean, it's a slow, but I mean, and she's so energetic, and she was like, I was like, what? Like, this is such a shock. And And people are always surprising me. They're coming on here with stories or with different like personalities and levels of energy. I'm just like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that what's great about it is it really challenges us to really up our game, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Right? I mean, I think that is the reason why we invite interesting people on the podcast because, I mean, as cool as Steven and I are,
Oh yeah.
being able to
Yep.
able to bring other people in and share their life and their passions and stuff. I think it just adds to what we do here on the show.
Yeah.
Oh
Everything
yeah.
makes a bigger puzzle, as it were. It's a better picture.
So I know one of the topics that we had spoken about before, and that I know it also factors into your writing, is uh, one of your decisions about how you live your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm currently living as a non-binary, non-gender conforming person, and that's been a big factor. I have another track coming about that whole thing. I live a life of kind of two genders, as it were. I was raised one way, but I feel a certain way.
Hmm.
That's been heavy in everything I've done. In my short stories, I write a lot of female characters. Um, in a lot of my music, it's written from more of a masculine perspective, trying to dig down into the feminine and understanding the depth of emotions that might be outside of the expectations that are bound with gender. That's been a really big part of who I am, and especially going into boxing now. There's been a lot of debate, and I won't get into it because I know you guys aren't all about politics and stuff, but there's been a
Hmm.
lot of debate about trans people in sport, and trying to be me while competing with men is going to be very interesting. You know,
Well, so you have an opportunity where we don't shy away from challenging or difficult topics, right?
Hmm.
And this is the reality of your life,
yeah,
right? Like if you had the opportunity right now to go and make your argument for your place um, as a as a trans person, right? What would your argument be?
oh gosh, I try not to argue. I'm also pagan, so I just want the world to turn, guys. Let's do it together. But on this specific issue, and especially for the trans community at large, I would just say we need to have a larger spectrum of understanding, especially for when we're talking about like MMA sports and the dangers that are happening when cis men transition to women, and they're fighting and really hurting the competitors. There needs to be a different class for that.
Hmm.
Yes, they are women; they're valid in my opinion, and vice versa. Cis women who transition to men, I think they're valid as men. That's where I stand. That's where I see things. Um, I don't think they should have to necessarily not compete with who they're comfortable with. But if we're going to sit here and argue and the sport's going to lose out because we're so caught up on the politics, then we need to create a spectrum that fits everybody. My wife and I were talking the other day about the fact that perhaps someone who is born man transition to woman, they should have their higher weight class for that, because even though the hormones that affect that change do break down the body and do allow it to have similar characteristics to a cis woman, it does still have the genetics and the makeup of, I would say, a weaker man. I don't want to offend, but that's probably the best way I would put it, just from my ignorant
Hmm.
perspective. I only know me. So higher weight classes maybe, or a separate division for both sides of the transition might be best. That same argument and issue, I think, applies to a lot of other things. I was
Hmm.
watching a series called Amend with Will Smith as one of the producers, talking about the gay rights movement and the 14th Amendment. Talking about how we have our freedom to exist and enjoy the same things as everyone else. The trans community hasn't won that battle yet.
Hmm.
So existing as a trans writer, as a trans martial artist, as a trans musician, as it were. It's kind of interesting to have to sit here and there's not necessarily a place for me to sit all the time. Going back to civil rights,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Without being grotesque, we can't even use certain bathrooms. And there's a lot of fear and a lot of stigma attached to the trans community that I think that would go away, or at least be a lot better for those who just genuinely want to live as themselves if we would make room or find compromises that are healthy and safe for everyone. So that's my spiel.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that is important is, um, you know, I think that sometimes we hold opinions about things before we get to know people.
Hmm.
Right? It's easy to have an opinion about a trans person if you've never met a trans person.
Right.
Um, and I just think of you as Danny.
Yeah.
I just think of you as my friend. I don't think of you as being different or weird. You're a parent, just like I'm a parent. You're an artist and a writer and just a creative, cool person. And that's the way that I see you. And I feel like if the world could see that, they might change a little bit about they certainly wouldn't be afraid of you anymore.
Yeah, I think the issue is, especially considering that we're in a heavily religious country where that drives a lot of our decisions. I think if we just stopped worrying about male and female and just about people, it might be a little easier for everyone, because I don't care, if Steven, if you identify as a guy, I don't care if Chris over here
Mhm.
identifies as a woman. I just care about the fact that you're Steven, you're Chris, and what you value and what you care about, I value and care about.
I'm trying to think of a film title that I watched years and years ago. Had a lot to do with this. It was a guy in the military, the Army or Marines, and he falls in love with this girl, and then like everybody finds out that she's trans, and like they start to tease him at first, and then it gets kind of heavy and crazy, and they end up killing the guy over this. And it's like, what? I don't remember the name of that movie. That really is what kind of like gave me the perspective of like, why do you care so much about what's going on over here? And it's just like that kind of shaped my mind for that forever, because I was like, this is horrible. Like, why would anybody? But it's real. Like that stuff happens.
Yeah, it does. And I was raised in a conservative Christian household, and I had to leave my church because I wasn't within the parameters of what was acceptable.
Hmm.
I stepped out, so it wasn't an amicable thing. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but there were talks about asking us to leave. And I've gone through being called an abomination and everything else, and I get how perspectives may seem and how people may see people in the trans community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perplexing to me that people who want to believe in love stories and who want to believe in friendships and all these beautiful things can look at one person based off of a decision, um, as well as a existence, and make a snap judgment and decision that that person does not fit. It kind of perplexes me. I just want to be able to go and eat a burger at Wendy's. Like
Right.
I won't use certain restrooms because I know that people are uncomfortable. That costs me comfort. So not all of us are out there trying to be predatory or push people into doing things that are uncomfortable. So why do we have to do it that way?
In that movie, I just kind of looked it up real quick. Soldier's Girl, which was 2003.
Okay.
I thought it was a lot older than that. Honestly, I thought it was like 2000, 1999 or something. But yeah, and that's oof.
I was going to make the connection. We've talked about the importance of representation. I believe that when we had Mark Guggenheim on, one of the topics was about the inclusion of characters who were in the LGBTQ community, right? And I feel like we both watch Supergirl.
Oh yeah,
we've talked about Nicole Maines.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you said that she's your hero.
Yes.
Why is Nicole Maines or Nia Knoll, who plays Dreamer, why is she your hero?
Okay, I'm trying really hard not to get emotional. I get really excited about this, but the fact that we have had so much LGBT community representation, and then a trans hero is huge. For the fact you go back 20 years, you wouldn't see the kind of strength and you wouldn't see the type of character that you see now on TV with LGBT characters. It'd always be something sexy or funny. It wasn't a legitimate or legitimatized or whatever the word would be. It wouldn't be a solid thing. So first of all, CW, thank you. For having these people who are badass. There's no other word, just badass people living their lives, literally kicking people's asses when they do wrong things. That's awesome. That they're real people now, and above all, they're superheroes. Getting specific about Nia, like that was awesome because I'm sitting there watching her. I'd never heard about Nicole Maines other than the court case where she's trying to be able to use the restroom as a young lady at school. But seeing her for the first time I've heard about her, but I hadn't seen her. Seeing her for the first time on this show, and just she's beautiful. She's a gorgeous person. Like wow, because a lot of people in our community we have a struggle with like, how can I be a beautiful person like that? How can I be a lingerie model? Like wow, that's so cool. These girls are gorgeous sometimes, and a lot of us don't think we can achieve that. And to see her up there looking how she looks, and at the same time being confident, being classy, and not perfect, but there nonetheless as a trans person. And then her getting on the interview section of the show Supergirl, and her there saying, not only am I a trans person, but I'm also an alien. During a time when they're dealing with the idea of aliens need to be killed, aliens need to leave this planet. We don't care about their problems. It's huge because someone like me, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm not the brightest light bulb on the chandelier sometimes. And I sat there watching this as a trans person going, yeah, ooh, yeah, that's awesome, and freaking out about that. But then she also includes issues, about the gender lines and about, being above and beyond and trying to figure out how to be humble, dealing with aliens as a whole, but also, I'm sure, tying it into citizenship issues of today. Like, it was just huge to have a solid representation of so many issues compounded into this one person. It was she's my hero just for that alone. I mean, there's other things that she does. She has her Instagram. She has Cameo. She has all these other things, and she's just a wonderful person outside of that. But just for that one character alone, like hero for life.
Yeah, I got to thank like Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim, both of them, for like being brave enough to even try to put something like that on TV, like to tell these stories. Right. And you can follow Greg Berlanti at G Berlanti right here on Twitter. Yeah. Like I saw that stuff on Supergirl. I'm like, this is different. Like it's good though, because it's like Mark said. He was like, no, I don't try to focus on like gay or lesbian characters or anything specific. There's just like these people exist. Yeah. And so, like, why not feature them? Because a lot of people get mad that they're on these shows. It's like, you should have put a street woman in that role. Like, what? People, like, gay exists and different people exist. Like, let's acknowledge that.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love, too, because a lot of people, I should probably say I had some very ignorant friends when I first came out. And one of their issues was always like, they're always throwing these people on TV shows. And I'm always like, you realize that's just living, right? They're not
right.
It's like it's unbelievable. Yeah, sure, she's Batwoman, so it probably seems super out there, but at the same time, Ruby Rose is living her truth. She's living her life, and she's putting it into a character. That's not even 100% her. She doesn't run around as Batwoman in real life.
Right.
She's just living, and they asked her to play a part, and she played it wonderfully. Just an example, and it's great because there have been shows where they throw in lesbian characters to be hot, and that's it. Yeah. It's very obvious in your face. They have gay characters who are very out there and flamboyant, which is not always the case. And those to me are kind of painful. So I really love the CW for just putting people in a role.
I think that what I really appreciate about it in general is at first that they're taking a risk because not everybody is going to necessarily like it automatically. Yeah. Right? They know that there are some people that they're going to piss off.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that it's a very unabashed, it's a support as a group. They're saying that we are allies and that we're not going to back off from this. And I thought it's a very bold step.
Yes.
But I will tell you, when I watch a TV show and when all the characters look like me, beautiful. Yeah. I kind of go, there's something wrong when every character is just one complexion.
No.
That's just not the world.
Let's have them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, there are places in our country where where there's not a lot of diversity, and I totally understand that, and I recognize it. Um, at the same time, I value the fact that we can have different people with different backgrounds and perspectives and lifestyles. And I think that what makes America great is ideally there's a place for all of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not going political, but
Right.
but I do think that is something that that we need to continue to work on normalizing.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a shock when we end up seeing people who are different than who we are, right?
Right.
And in my own family, right? In my own family, there are people that fall under that umbrella, and again, it's not that weird,
yeah,
right? But somehow we believe the lie that of what normal is.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right.
I don't know as if normal exists, and if normal does exist, it's just another word for boring.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
Normal is an overused, undigestible bit of reality, is what it is.
Yeah.
That's
because I used to consider myself as a normal person, but then sometimes I'll sit here and fiddle with little minion toys, or like, I mean, how normal is that? Like, dude sitting in front of his computer, like, ooh. I mean, there's no normal. There shouldn't be a normal.
Yeah.
If there was a normal, everybody would look like stormtroopers marching around everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, and not unrelated, but like Superman and Lois. We always talk about the new shows coming out. That comes out, what, like 2 days from now? 3 days?
Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, yeah.
It is on my DVR.
I'm waiting. I'm just like,
I'm excited to hear how the ratings go and how people like it.
I'm probably not going to watch it. I don't know if I'll be able to watch it live or not if I'm working that day. I'm not sure, but I'll watch it next day on CW app at least.
I will not spoil it for you. All right.
I have to watch Batwoman from tonight as well, but which I'm loving that season, by the way. Season 2 of Batwoman is awesome.
Are you watching Batwoman?
I'm behind on everything. I have my opinions. I'm ignorant about it. I don't care if you spoil it either, because I'm the guy. First time I ever saw episode 3 of Star Wars, I actually watched the making of before, and then I watched the movie. So whatever.
I do that. I'll watch the feed. I'll get a DVD, put it in. I'm like, ooh, behind the scenes, like, ooh, and then watch it.
Yeah, exactly. So
or watch the commentary track and then watch the movie without commentary track after.
Watching the characters come to life will always be the highlight more than the story. So,
well, I will tell you that I was really worried when they replaced, Ruby Rose's character with Jack. Yeah. I thought they've done all this work in creating this character with this one particular actress, and doing this whole wax on, wax off the phrase. Maybe we'll replace her and nobody will notice. I thought, man, that's the greatest way to tank a show if there ever was one. And I really do think that Javicia Ryan has done a really, really respectable job. And I think would be a difficult place to be put in. Yeah. Right?
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. You're the star of this show. Like, wait, what? Like, that's a lot of pressure.
She does. And somehow the suit fits her.
It just automatically fits her. The same suit that fit Batman himself. It's just like Kate wore it. And like, boom, oh, look at me. It fits me perfectly. So Batman is this tiny little, like...
nanotech.
Right.
There you go.
It's made of miracle fibers.
There you go.
Which means I could wear the bat suit.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes, of course I would look more like, Whale Seal Man or something.
Oh boy.
The red wig coming out of it and everything.
Right. I could rock that. I absolutely rock that.
Well, now it's a different wig because they changed the suit last week.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
They altered it a little bit to kind of give it more of there was a story point in there, like, oh, you don't even feel like Batwoman. You're not Batwoman. She's like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to make this suit mine. And they're like, you can't do that. That doesn't belong to you. She's like, oh, well, I'm doing it anyway. And then, boom, it fits. I really like this version of Batwoman. I think it's good because she's like a completely different personality, but yet kind of the same. She's got the same kind of worries and fears, but at the same time, comes from a completely different background.
What I like about her, which is great, and again, I'm not knocking Ruby Rose. I liked what she did and what she brought to the character.
Mm-hmm.
But Javika seems to be a much more broken kind of person. I mean, we are first introduced to her, and she's living out of her van. She's known life on the streets. In the last episode, we had found out that she had been, trafficked, right, kidnapped, and abused, and manipulated. We know that she's been in a gang. She spent time in prison. So she really does have a lot of depth to who she is. It is. I feel like this. The fact that the suit has literally fallen in her lap. That it's given her a second lease on life, right? Who would not want the opportunity to hit the reset button?
Yeah, especially if it's Batwoman. Come
Right.
on.
I would do that in a second. Like if I see Batman's cowl sitting there, I'm like,
yeah.
Right. Like he's not using it anymore.
Why not?
he's not using it at all. I mean, like there's got to be another one laying around in the Batcave down there somewhere.
Well, gosh, after his time, assuming it's on the same timeline, he's got to have a few of them down there. So
Yeah.
We have realized though, we wonder how many superheroes can just go lost or missing, right? That right now Bruce Wayne is lost, presumed dead, but we don't know. And now Ruby Rose is, Kate Kane was presumed dead, but now we know she's alive and out there lost too.
Waiting for a cameo.
Right. It's not looking good for anybody that wears the cowl, right? If you claim to be Batman or Batwoman, seems like it's just a matter of time before you end up lost.
Hashtag tanked rep.
Right.
Yeah. There's gonna be like a spinoff show called like Lost Arkham Island or something.
I want to see that.
I think
all these missing people are living on this island.
Right. You were waiting on that pitch for an idea for Mark.
There you go.
Yeah, hey Mark.
You got it right there.
There's going to be like 6x Bat people, on that island. For some reason, they just can't get off of it.
Yeah, they're just stuck.
Yeah,
haven't figured out how to get the Batbill or the Batwing or whatever to fly over there and pick them up.
They've got all those people on Titans too that keep like Robin is changing people every day. So like,
yeah,
right.
Hey, you can do it.
But we certainly have enjoyed watching Batwoman, and if you're not watching Batwoman, you should.
Okay,
it really is.
I get
you need to get caught up so we can talk about it.
Oh, you can always talk about it. I'll go watch it anyway, just for the fact of what you're telling me.
You
right
should.
Now, so.
You
Good
should.
show. I mean, it's way. I mean, I like it way better than the first season. I'll just say that. Like, that's me personally, though.
I love the first season, so if it's better than that, I'm just gonna die. I'm gonna be happy.
That's my opinion.
I will tell you that one of the characters who I think is underrated and deserves more credit is Rachel Starsky, who plays Alice.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
she does such a great job.
I think that she is just fantastic in her role. I mean, she's essentially the female Joker.
Yeah,
right.
And she is warped and twisted and clever and brilliant.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I'm running out of adjectives.
I mean, we really like her, and all this stuff we're saying about her has nothing to do with the fact that she liked our tweets at all.
No, not at all. But she did like a couple of my tweets. So,
yeah. And then I felt jealous, and I had to tweet her, and then she liked my tweet, and then now we're working on.
Get on that bandwagon. Watch her.
I know. We're gonna. She's a tweet whore, and she just gives it out to everybody.
I'll be your new mouse.
There we go. I wasn't gonna go there.
I mean,
oh man.
But I again I hope she doesn't consider it a date. It's meant in love,
right?
But I love the character. I really feel like she just brings it in every episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last episode, she was literally digging through the refrigerator, like she was somebody's drunk uncle or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That was
what are you
awesome.
doing?
Sounds about right for her though.
But it just really kind of fit in this quirky, weird, offbeat. Um, I'm gonna do what I want. You can't tell me otherwise, kind of persona. And so,
Mhm.
anyway, if you're not watching Batwoman, what's wrong with you?
Well, I got a few
Right.
things on my list. Oh, sorry, talking to sorry
Right.
guys.
I'm not necessarily directing it at you, but I am directing at you.
Yeah, I
Um,
caught that.
Yeah. I think that for both Steven and I, we've realized that we we have this arrow-shaped hole in our lives.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Kind of what killed it for me because after Arrow, I just don't know if I can take it.
I know. Well, Supergirl, or not? Well, we talked about Supergirl, but Stargirl. Have you
Mhm.
watched Stargirl?
Not at all, but I've heard great things.
So
It's awesome.
one of the big things that we just heard this week is that John Wesley Shipp,
Okay.
who played
Yep.
the '90s Flash and who played Jay Garrick
Yeah.
in the Flash series, is going to play Jay Garrick in Stargirl for season 2.
Man.
And he liked my tweet too, so
He's so cool.
He is. He is. And I found that I like his politics too, but that
yeah,
again,
he's a cool dude.
another show. But no, I really we needed. I mean, I really like what they've done with this very young cast of heroes, and Owen Wilson. Is it Owen or is it Luke?
Luke Wilson.
Okay, so it's
Wilson.
Luke. It's Luke Wilson. I think that he brings this really awesome dad vibe.
Yeah,
to the show.
he surprised me.
If you again one of those characters that you might underestimate, and then you realize how awesome he is, and that he's been doing this for a long time. But I do feel like John Wesley Shipp is going to just add one more element of maturity and experience to the whole thing. Since we know that they're getting a couple of different villains for season 2 back, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm really curious just to see where things are going.
And I'm curious to see which Jay Garrick this is because I know we discussed it on Facebook before.
I think we almost came to fighting words.
Almost, I'm like, no, it has got to be the same guy.
I realize, Stephen, that you have a hard time accepting some realities.
Yeah.
But I was quite certain that they had said the Jay Garrick that we know had died as a result of Crisis.
And I was thinking, though, that somebody came back later and said that him and his wife were safe because after Crisis, when everything was rebuilt, that they were like rebuilt along with it. But then I could be mistaken because some people came back and some people didn't.
Yeah.
And so it's like who came back and who didn't come back.
Well, Earth that he could come from. So I don't know. I really like the way they wrapped up with Crisis. You know, I don't know if I was the only one, but when he's running towards, the one thing he loves in the universe, and that's the reason for saving the universe. Like, that was the perfect closing of a beautiful chapter to me. So if they reopen that, I would feel kind of cheated, to be honest with you, personally.
I like the idea that they essentially took what we knew of the multiple worlds, they put it into a box and shook it all up again. And so we're going to have to relearn that all over. What that means, though, is that we could have the same character,
right? Yeah.
But a different version of them.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
And I think that is awesome. What we're going to get.
Probably so. Yeah.
Yeah. We have not yet received enough details to make an informed decision. I mean, we know that it's possible that just like what was going to happen with Green Arrow and the Canaries, right? Taking place in the future, right? And Black Siren and the Canary and Black Canary getting sent to the future. Something similar could have happened to Jay Garrick.
Could have.
but we don't know.
We don't.
But
now I feel empty again.
You feel empty again? Why do you feel empty again?
I need him back, or not at all.
I know.
I just hope that if it is a new version or an older version from a different universe, that they give him like a different suit. Please don't recycle the same suit if it's going to be different.
Because that suit was amazing, but like
it was a great suit.
Just seeing the Flash upgrades in the timeline, like I'm just loving the upgrades. So I really would love if they slap something really.
You guys have not seen the suit that he's wearing?
No.
I saw a picture of the announcement, but I didn't see like an official anything.
So he's wearing that that World War I helmet.
Oh yeah,
right.
I love that one. Yeah,
he's wearing that,
cool.
and he's wearing the typical suit that he wore on Earth 2 or 3. So so he looks the same.
That's awesome. Right. So cool.
But he's playing a different role because he's kind of a part of the golden or silver age of the JSA. So anyway, I feel like season 1 was really just a setup for what we're going to get for season 2. So if you have not watched Stargirl, again, I think you should put it on your list. It is fun.
It is great. Like
and really
the Gambler. I mean, come on, the Gambler, Eric Goins, who was on this show.
Yes.
Such a cool guy.
I think that was another one of our really fun interviews that we had had.
That was our second one, our second like big time like kind of person.
Well, and one of the cool things that relates to you is that he studied Hapkido. And so that was a cool little factoid that we had gotten out of him, was that he studied martial arts on top of being really involved in improv and in voices. We need to have him on again.
Yeah, because what we did not know at the time was he was involved with Cobra Kai season 3.
Yeah.
He popped up right there. What was the character? I mean, it's been a while.
The character was what Johnny was trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For that job interview, and didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, is that? And then it was over. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd he go?
I didn't even catch it.
Yeah,
that's great.
But it is sort of like playing Where's Waldo.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how can I find this guy in different roles all over the place?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
So yes, we need to get. I feel like as soon as Stargirl season 2 comes out, and we see how he's involved in that show again, it really would be awesome to bring him back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would love to get everybody else from that show. I mean, I've seen other podcasts that are like, oh, today we talked to this person. Like, how did you get that person? Like, where do you know their mom or something? Like what? Like, and I've reached out to a lot of people. A lot of people have liked these tweets, and I'm just like, come on, just like Dietrich Bader, the comedian. Like, I was going back to the Drew Carey show in the '90s. I'm like, he liked a tweet. I was like, I would love for you to be on our podcast. Liked by Dietrich Bader. I'm like, okay, so is that a yes? Is that a no?
How much is that going to cost?
He's like, oh, who are you? Like, go away. Oh, but yeah, I mean. I'm just so thankful and surprised we've gotten so many people that we have, and it's like some of them I'm like, how did they say yes?
Right. I clearly misrepresented ourselves.
Oh.
No, I think that what it's like is it's sort of like that snowball.
Mm.
And it starts small and it builds and it builds and it builds.
Like me.
Right. No, I mean, I think that you're a part of it, right? You're a part of us, reaching out and talking to different cool people. Mm-hmm. And, I think it gets to celebrate you and what you're passionate about with your music and with your writing and with your martial arts and stuff. And I think that also allows us to just get more street cred in practice.
Yeah.
Talking and hanging out and just discussing the stuff that we're passionate about too, right?
I just got to catch up to Lee Newton there.
Yeah. Well, I will say that Lee Newton is definitely something to aspire to.
Oh yeah.
When we began, I had
Man.
gotten to know her a little bit through Facebook and listening to her couple of her songs, but getting to talk with her, live, it really made me a fan.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
I know that we've already talked about Lee and we've given her moment, but I don't think either Stephen or I could express just how thankful we were for that opportunity.
Yeah,
so
really cool.
You think it's cool that you're being on the podcast, and we think it's
I'm
cool
all
that
psyched.
I mean, you drove a considerable distance.
Yeah.
To be here today, and
Excited to be here. So.
Yeah,
I walked about 10 feet.
You got me beat on.
I mean, Stephen, don't think
I
I don't appreciate the effort.
It was a good effort, yes.
I know, but
I hope you weren't winded.
a little bit, but I'm good now.
All right, good.
Not to roll. This chair has wheels. I'll just roll it back in front of my TV and watch stuff.
Love it.
Well, hey, I feel like we've done a solid here tonight.
Oh yeah,
I had a blast.
great.
Yeah.
It's been a good one, and I can't wait to do next week's. We don't have anybody like scheduled, so maybe we can get on it this week and get 35 people to come on next week. Have a big mega show. I don't know.
That might be a bit much.
Just gotta get everybody to sit just right on the camera so you can make a picture on the screen.
I'm gonna need a bigger couch.
Yeah, we need to have a Crisis on Infinite podcast or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Stephen. I do.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Like, this has been a fun one.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it for this week.
All right. I look forward to next week.
I'm sad it's over.
Absolutely. All right. Everybody have a good night.
All right. Night, Stephen.
Take care.
Good night.